What's going down, D-Gens? Here we are, week 12. Oh my god, this year is flying by, just as usual. If you have been watching the shorts, been watching the channel, you already know the picks. So that's great. Right now, it's just a matter of why the hell did this dude say this? I'm going to fade the shit out of this guy. Well, last week we went 2-2. What the team totals, not great, not terrible, kind of in the middle, just like in school. So, 2 picks, Atlanta Falcons under 20.5. If you're looking at your screen right now, we have them expected for 20.75 in the algorithm, right? So usually this would be a no play for me because the 20.75, the team total is 20.5, so obviously very, very close. It's actually saying, if anything, we should lean over. However, this does not account for the loss of Drake London. Now, it does account for Kirk Cousins because using his stats is already, gone into this algorithm. So we can kind of use that. However, there's not a really great way to account for one particular receiver, especially when it's the number one receiver on the team. So the best thing that we can do is go back and find out, hey, how did they do without him? Well, in the games without Drake London and the games where he got hurt, they scored 10 points. And that was, that was this season. It wasn't anything, like years and years and years ago. And it wasn't even against a great defense. And I apologize if I'm spacing right now on the team they played. But either way, now that was with Michael Penix. And that's, the Falcons have a way of just really underscoring what they should. I don't know if you remember, they had a 0 game against the Dolphins. Now that one was them kind of pressing. I don't know if anybody went back and watched that game. They scored 0 points, but honestly, a lot of that was they got into decent position, or they were maybe in the middle of the field, and they were trying to press, really, because the Dolphins had taken out into a lead, and the pressing ended up into like interceptions and pick sixes and fumbles and just a bad game. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but I do believe that in this game where they are not necessarily going to need to score a whole bunch against this Saints team, even if they're behind, the Saints, they in the games that they won, the game that they won, right, it was 17 points. So I don't see the Saints getting out to like some huge commanding lead the way the Dolphins did. And if that's the case, I think the Falcons are going to feel very content to run as much as they can. Raheem Mostert loves the running game. We all know this about the Falcons. I'm not breaking ground here. So what we're saying is it's going to be a slower game. They do not have their top receiver, who without him, they've really struggled to do anything through the air. The quarterback's not going to help any with, his 5 yards per air yards per pass. Is just a lot that is really pointing towards a low-scoring game in this game. And then, there's just not any real factor that we can point to right now that's saying, hey, these guys are going to need to put their foot on the gas pedal at some point. It really just seems like this is going to be a 13-10, 14-17 type of game. And so give me the under on the Falcons 20.5. Now, aside from that, if we go to the Raiders game, which is the other pick, also Raiders under 20.5. The Raiders, the offensive line is just absolute dog shit. Now, I will say last week, Quinnen Williams got a sack and a half. It was his first game with the Cowboys. Yeah, he looked good. And maybe it's, maybe that's why they looked so bad last week. But it's been an all-season thing. They just cannot give Geno time. They traded away their best receiver. So we have another team who just does not have a real legit number one receiver there. It's just not too much other than Brock Bowers, right? So, and he's not going to be a super far down the field. Maybe he's a yards after catch guy. But Browns are going to get in that backfield. They're going to disturb the game. They're going to disturb Geno in particular. Myles Garrett's going to get his. He's sick, by the way, in case you didn't know that. So hopefully he's up and ready and, 100% by the time we get to the game. We're pretty close to it. But either way, I think he's going to come through. He's going to get his, right? He's going to get at least a sack. He's going to just be in the backfield causing havoc, being a menace, that kind of thing. So the Browns, to just slow down this Raiders offense, it's not a big ask. The Browns have a great defense. People keep saying it doesn't travel. I think it's easy to say that, but if you look at the teams that they've played, they've played some pretty decent competition. Like the game that they're talking, most people refer to is the Ravens game, where the Ravens scored 40 points on this Browns defense. Number one, that was very similar to the game that we were just talking about with the Falcons. The Ravens really got lucky in that game. They were struggling for the most part. I mean, for the 3 quarters of that game. And then they got kind of bailed out with some like penalties and turnovers, just good field position. And that's how they got to the 40. But it wasn't like they came in and just blow this team out. And that was in Baltimore. So I don't 100% believe this whole like, hey, the Browns defense can't travel bullshit. It seemed to travel pretty well. So give me the Raiders under 20.5. There is another bonus pick here that I did not make a Sora video for, and that's going to be the Titans under 14.5 points. The Titans just, obviously we know they're not the greatest team in the world. This interim coach has really not done anything different. The offensive line's not different. The offense isn't different. The receivers are just banged the hell up, man. Calvin Ridley's out now. Io Manner's out most likely for this week. They're down to their 3rd or 4th receiver as far as like being their number 1 receiver. Okonkwo is the only real bright spot on this offense. That offensive line can just not get pushed for Tony Pollard, for anybody for that matter. And so there's not a whole lot of opportunity for this game, for this team to score. And to be completely transparent, it has not mattered who they play, right? Like regardless of what game you look at, this Titans offense has struggled against literally everybody that they've played. This week is not going to be any different. The Titans going up against the Seahawks have a great defense. The Seahawks have honestly just put an belt to ass to most teams. As far as defensively, they really, really make it hard to move. Even that Rams game last week, yes, the Rams scored 21 points, but that number one is higher than most. Number 2, that's the Rams offense that is, pretty high flying for the most part. Has a lot of really talented receivers, pretty healthy. And now you're coming against the Titans and you're saying that they're going to score just one less touchdown than the Rams did, and I believe it. So give me the 14.5, under 14.5 for the Titans. And then for next week, guys, for Thanksgiving, I'm going to tell you this right now. We'll come back to it later. Bet the Chiefs against the spread versus the Cowboys. As of right now, it's Chiefs minus 4.5. We'll get into the rationale pretty soon. But the Chiefs minus 4.5, you're going to need to get this one right after the Sunday games are over. Take your bankroll, put it on the Chiefs to beat the Cowboys next week. There's a couple of reasons, a lot of rationale for that one. But that is going to be my number 1 smash spot for Thanksgiving. Thank you, guys. I'll come back soon with that Chiefs game. Y'all have a great day.